You ready?
Audio check 1 2. Test 1 2. I gotta turn that gain down a little bit. Hold on.
Blah, blah. Blah, blah.
Check. Audio check. Test.
And I think you need to talk more into your mic.
Oh, well, I can turn up the gain then, I guess. I just didn't want there to be any reverb. But I'll talk to my mic, man. That's fine. I'm just getting red. I'm getting red bars for...
All right. Do what you got to do.
All right, man. Let's go. You want to ring us in?
All right. And welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Candor. I'm Brian.
And I'm Park.
And I don't have any clever comments to say, just like Park would normally do. For this episode of Unfiltered Candor, Park and I were going to talk a little bit about superficial loyalty, or fake loyalty, as one would say. The perception of loyalty to others, to oneself, how you view it, and how others may possibly view it onto you. And this applies to family, friends, co-workers, professional, civilians, and even our favorite, the military member and veteran. What say you?
Yeah, I think it's a super complex topic, and we're going to try and tackle it in a decent amount of time so people don't get turned off and they listen to us or watch us to the end. But it delves into family dynamics and friendships and stuff that sort of either is built or erodes over long periods of time. So to sort of generalize is what we're going to have to do, and of course I'm going to need help. You reining me in because I'll go off on tangents, but
yes,
I think
you will.
We'll do better if you kind of take the lead on this and kind of take it from the perspective that you want to discuss, and then I'll sort of facilitate with my 2 cents as we develop this conversation.
Sure. So we'll just start off with you being on the receiving end of a person that you feel that was dishonest, or not even dishonest, just not loyal to you, and some situations that you may see or experience this. And I have them kind of summed up as the one instance where this may be the most noticeable for a person is when they're in a point of hardship, especially being on the receiving end, because in these certain times you feel you need assistance, you need help, and there may be instances where you reach out to others for that help and they don't, and you may perceive that as them not being loyal, or they just stabbed you in the back. Circumstances dictate, of course. However, that just may be your perception. 2, you find yourself in a situation that maybe not with the status quo of the company, organization, or club, what have you. It goes against popular sentiment, and typically when put in these situations, if it's against the popular sentiment, people will distance themselves. It's very common, especially in a military organization. Somebody kind of, jacks up, what have you. People will kind of like distance themselves because they don't want to be, I guess, an accessory to, or caught like knowing or having knowledge of. And then the third one is why you may perceive people not being loyal to you is you're just a piece of shit, and you are flat out doing something wrong, and you're doing something that's morally, ethically unsound, and they just don't want to follow you into that because they know you're a piece of shit.
So I'm gonna bring us back to a previous conversation we had and say that there's a level of personal accountability that has to be spoken about here, because if you are in any of those scenarios, and as adults go through life, we're gonna find ourselves in these scenarios, and you don't know how the company that you keep is going to react to some degree, then that's kind of on you. It's kind of on the individual, right? Like, you have friends that you know are going to help you move, and then you have friends that you know don't even ask them because they're going to ghost you. Personally, I wouldn't call the latter friends, but I define friends a little bit differently than most people as well, and that's something that I'm working on with a whole nother bucket of energy that I don't want to open up right now. But if you were to have...
He's working on it with me.
What's that?
I said, you're working on it with me.
Yeah, for sure. But if someone were to ask me, and recently I had a therapist ask me to define what a friend means to me, and the answer that I came up with after thinking about it for quite some time was, a friend to me is somebody who has not let me down yet. And that's pretty sad, but it's true. And to me, as I try and evolve past that, it sort of solidifies that personal accountability of like, man, I'm on my own. I don't have friends, and the ones that I do are only there because they haven't served their own self-fulfilling needs over mine yet. And I don't know if there's an argument to be made for altruism or not, but I think ultimately loyalty is very fluid, and it's very difficult to nail down. It's like when you make a friend, you don't discuss that. You don't discuss how far you're willing to go for somebody. You don't have a checklist of like, if this, then that, or I'll do this for you if you do that for me in a transactional relationship. But that sort of feeling of loyalty is developed over periods of time, and in some cases, austere conditions or arduous tasks and things where there might be a little bit of misery involved, and maybe life-threatening circumstances, and or maybe it's not even that heavy. Maybe it's like talking to a friend about what to do for an anniversary, or you're a boyfriend that wants to propose to your girlfriend, and you need some moral support from your friends, and that's where the loyalty rears its true colors, or what have you. But I don't know if I got us off topic already, but I think it's important to know that if you experience, there are times when you just get completely blindsided, right? But now the personal accountability doesn't come on the side of knowing that it could have happened, or understanding that that's the kind of person they were. But now the personal accountability shifts to, what now? What are you going to do now? Because the event happened, the loyalty has been disintegrated, and now you have a crossroad, right? You have to pick something to do. And that's where that accountability comes in, is like, now you need to maintain course without that individual or the group of individuals in order to get the job done, or the task situated, or whatever the decision is that you need help with. Sure.
So, audience, keep in mind, Parker and I, as we've notably stated multiple times, so we've served many years in the military, and our definition of how friends become are usually defined through hardship and austere conditions, as Park said. Not everybody's going to have the same conditions on how they establish friendship or loyalty, and this is no way in picking on my buddy Park here. However, just keep in mind, not everybody out there, not all of you listeners, are going to be so hard-lined, because we typically define loyalty with life or death.
It gets pretty intense, right? And once you go there, it's difficult to come back.
Yeah. So we're trying to generalize. We could be talking about life or death. However, we're trying to give a general discussion to the the bigger population too. So going back, so why do people, I guess, show a lack of loyalty? Maybe one, you put your faith in the wrong person to begin with. Maybe they're just a coward. Maybe they're weak. And I know everybody out there knows somebody that's like this, or they believe a person to be. Deep down inside, they're a good person, but they are just scared of risk, scared of chance. And maybe a person of a more aggressive personality would call them weak. But I know that's not fair. Maybe they just are scared. Okay? And just to keep it simplified. Maybe you have a lack of character. That person is just trying to maintain the status quo. They just don't want to look like the weakest link within their organization. They may know that the decision that they're making and not supporting you, whatever decision it may be, is going against their belief, but they're going with the command or the bosses or the team, whatever, you would call it in the private sector. I don't know. Fuck you guys.
So you're wanting to appeal to the wider audience, but fuck them.
Hey, I'm just trying to keep it colorful. No, you guys are good. I mean, someday I'll be coming to you for a job, maybe, or not.
You're crazy.
Self-ambition, right? We all know this guy or gal who is ambitious, but they're ambitious to a point of throwing people under the bus, burning bridges. They're there to just gain that rank or to get to the end state by all means, regardless of who they hurt. Okay? And at the same time, a lot of these self-ambitious, self-righteous, or a lot of times pretentious people, they were just never your friend to begin with. And they're very good at manipulation. And then the last one is why do people do this or show a lack of loyalty? Is maybe it's just malicious or nefarious intent, right? They already have what do I want to say? They already have something in their mind that they're going to do something bad to begin with, and your best interest was never taken into consideration to begin with. They're just crooks, thugs, criminals, pieces of garbage.
Yeah. But again, I'm going to go back to, you kind of learn very early on as a child even to identify those characteristics, unless of course those characteristics are how you live your life, then it's a little bit more difficult. But if you put blind faith and trust in your own loyalty into a person whom you know to be not on the same values plane, not your moral compass, your ethical behavior, and your perception of legality and letter of the law and spirit of the law are not the same, then you got it coming, right? Like, I'm not saying that you deserve it, but I'm saying you could have avoided it, and that was within your power.
But when you say "but," you believe they deserve it.
I used to think that. Yeah.
My only argument is, there are people who are naive to a fault, and you know this, man. There are people that are naive to a fault, and the only way they're going to learn in life is through those hardships, unfortunately. And that's why we have this podcast. We want them to listen to that, to hopefully they can learn and identify these potential holes.
Let me ask you this: how do you know if somebody is your friend?
Who, me personally?
Yeah.
I believe it's more of a feeling, and also by what they exhibit and what they show in you.
I have a metric, and here's where it is, right? And keep in mind, my definition of a friend is a little bit skewed, as we spoke about earlier. But here's the thing: if you have somebody that is in your life, and you want to know if they're worth being there, right? If you are making the right decision on keeping them around, here's what you can do. You can tell them bad news, and they will listen to you. And you don't have to worry at all about them telling you how stupid you were to allow that to happen, or how dumb you were to get into that situation. Or you don't have to worry about them telling you how something so much worse happened to them 3 years ago, or whatever the case is, right? And then the other piece of that is, it's even stranger, is you can tell somebody that good news. You can tell them good news, and they will celebrate with you, right? If you have somebody in your life and you're kind of afraid to tell them good news because they're going to take it away from you, right? They're not going to celebrate with you, or they're going to tell you how something way better happened to them last week, or even worse, how something better happened to someone they knew. Then that is get out of that relationship. Leave that person out of your life. Because if you don't have people in your life that you can share bad news with and good news with, and just enjoy the time together in resolving problems, then those people aren't your friends. So those are my metrics.
So ultimately, does it break down to the loyalty of loyalty to others, or loyalty to your values?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, in that's sort of where my values roll up, is when, as you develop a relationship with somebody, the idea is to match values that are uncompromising, right? Like, we can go to the extremes. So a value to me that is uncompromising is murder is wrong. Like, that's, whether it's biblical or whether it's legal or whether it's just the fucking right thing to do. Murder is wrong. Now, if I were to get into a relationship with somebody and start build a friendship and exchange loyalty and expect loyalty, and I found out that they didn't think that, then that would no longer be a relationship that I would invest emotional capital in. Now, a value that is malleable to me is political, right? If I'm in a relationship with somebody who doesn't see the political landscape in the same way I do, whether it's Republican or Democrat or independent or constitutionalist or whatever, that's okay. I can be friends with somebody that doesn't view that in the same manner that I do. So as you build, this knowledge of people and how you interact with one another, it's important to know that if somebody holds different values than you, and they hold those values in a higher regard than they hold you, then don't expect loyalty from them in that facet of your relationship, right? In using that same example, if I'm going to vote with a friend because we're going early voting, and we get into the voting booth, and I'm I try and persuade this individual to vote in the same way I do, knowing he's not politically aligned with me, and then I get mad at him because he didn't vote the way I wanted him to, that's on me, right? Like, that, I can't expect somebody's loyalty to overcome their values with regard to political policies.
You did not respond accordingly.
You mean if I expected something?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I received a stimulus. And then I paused, and then I responded.
So, I guess at the end of the day, summing this all back up, I know it's a lot to cover, and we tried to generalize and identify certain aspects of what loyalty is and how one defines loyalty and what have you. Ultimately, I believe loyalty is earned through your actions and by how you carry yourself and your character. At the same time, you shouldn't expect people to follow you blindly or is it blindly? Is it blindless?
What?
Just you shouldn't expect blind loyalty just by virtue of your position or who you are, right? Your character and who you are and the actions that you do should define you. And unfortunately, as Parker was saying earlier, some people just aren't going to be able to identify some of these aspects in their life, and they get what they get. It's coming to them. But hopefully, after one does you wrong, you learn from that mistake and you kind of move on.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So again, so loyalty is built through consistency in behavior, a solid foundation of identity, and a consistent, the actions that are both authentic and empathetic towards the fellow man.
Absolutely. And I think you summed it up better than I did. Damn you.
I don't know about better.
Viewers, have you noticed that today we're not operating in our usual studio? We're going remote. We wanted to actually test this capability, just like any former active guy trying to test their limitations, because potentially we want to go on the road and do this. What do you think?
Let us know.
Also, we already got comments from the first few podcasts, and we greatly appreciate it, and thank you.
Very, very much appreciated. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Recommendations are welcome. Please tell us what you want us to talk about.
Yeah. And don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to click that little bell notification icon so you get notified every time we drop a new podcast or video. And we certainly appreciate your loyalty so far.
Respond accordingly. Until next time.
Well done.